Leonard fam, it's that fun time of year when we don't have to struggle with the pain of failures after a 49er game that we figured should have went better before we went into the game. Fam, you think about the last 2 years of stress, and we come into each Sunday thinking, oh man, we got a chance to win this game if we just don't make a bunch of mistakes. It's always been about how careful we had to be in order to win a game, and if we had a margin of error about that big, or of course we were going to get killed. And 9 out of 10 times that happened, as our record reflects for the last 2 years. How many games have we won in the last 2 years? Count them. 10. 10 games, 30, and you got 16 games a year. That's 32 games. What percentage did you win? Oh! Less than a third. So, hopefully that changes this year. But the talk you're getting around the Niner Empire about this is it, the 49ers don't get it done this week. Apparently, the John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan experiment is failing, and it's time to move on. Well, we'll talk about this later on in today and this evening's fan gathering. But let me ask those who would say that a question: who the hell are you going to use to replace them then? This is what I always get a kick out of. We're firing people all the time. We don't have any replacements. Some guy said bring in McCarthy. McCarthy? What McCarthy? The guy that Aaron Donald fired out of Green Bay? Have you lost your mind? I get real emotional. Anyway, let's go ahead. Tony is standing by with today's gym. Like I said, the fun's going to begin now as we start to speculate as to who's going to come and make this team a better team going forward and in the years to come. And some people are already saying the 49ers potentially do have the Bill Belichick of the future. And Tony's here right now. Tony, what's up?
What's going on, Ronbo?
Tony, man, I'm telling you, man, just like you, the passion is flowing like crazy through my body, man. I got a feeling this is it. We may have been clowned by the fan bases around the nation for the last time for a while. So, and Tony, you're getting ready to address that issue right now by adding the personnel and pieces we need uh,
Yep.
for going forward. So, hey, by the way, if you have any questions for Tony as he's rolling along, now you're not going to interrupt him because I'm not going to stop him until he gets to the end of his first presentation, which is, first of all, he is going to give you his free agents, and then we'll pause for a moment, and he'll answer a few questions. So you got questions for our GM of the day, you just put hashtag Q, and we'll be able to find that question really quickly. And I'll send the question to Tony. He'll address that. So, yeah, with that said, hey, Tony, come on in here, man, and take over this 49er team.
All right. So before we do anything, we have to address issues in-house. We can't go out into the league and look for players if we can't look at our own guys. So the first guy I'm re-signing is Jimmy Ward to a 2-year, $6.5 million contract. The thing with him, he's shown more potential, I would say, this past year, and he's shown his versatility. He can play safety, he can play corner, and he was actually pretty good from what I saw compared to the rest of the team. So I'm going to keep him for another 2 years. Maybe we can trade him in the offseason. That will be seen at another time. So the next guy I'm re-signing is long snapper Kyle Nelson to a 2-year, $1.8 million contract. I don't see any reason to mess up the chemistry between him and the other special teams guys. So we're going to keep him. $900,000 a year for a long snapper is pretty standard. So I don't think there's any issues there. Now, the next guy, he has a place in my heart because he's just a very good special teamer. Suffered a very gruesome injury against the Raiders. But his name is Raheem Mostert, running back. I'm re-signing him for 2 years, $2.5 million. I think his versatility in special teams and as a running back just is invaluable. And I think we could use every type of player like that on our team. The next guy is Bradley Pinion. I'm not a huge fan of him. I think we drafted him in the 5th round. That was okay. That's usually where you draft those guys. But he doesn't have game-breaking accuracy. He usually just doesn't hit it in the right spot. And then at the same time, his power just isn't enough a lot of the time to get it down from the 20 to the other 20. So I'm going to keep him for 1 year. We don't have any other options. So we're just going to keep it like that. And then the last guy I'm re-signing in-house is Elijah Lee, weak side linebacker. With Elijah, I think the main thing is he can play some very valuable roles in the defense, but I don't think he's a starter. I think getting paid $1 million a year as a backup linebacker is pretty good. I think he's a quality backup, and that's all we can really ask for. Um, so now for the guys that I'm releasing, I don't think they have a spot on the team. There's just too much going on to keep them, and there's probably better things we can do than keep them here. We can replace them with other players. So the first guy I'm releasing is right guard Mike Person. He was pretty good in a couple games this year, but he was inconsistent in my opinion. Got beat too much in pass protection, and that's not a guy I want trying to protect Jimmy G. So we're going to leave him to walk, find another job. The next guy might come as a surprise to many of you, but I'm releasing Robbie Gould. And even though he is a very accurate kicker and has been the past 2 years, I don't want a guy on my team who is flirting with playing for another city. Uh, in that case, it is Chicago. And I think there's another guy who I'm going to address later that I think is better for the team and can give us more opportunities to win games. Now, I don't think many guys are as consistent as Robbie Gould. I would say there's 2 or 3 guys in the league, but being able to kick the ball 5 or 6 yards longer in those situations at the end of games when we need to have 57-yard field goals, I can't have a guy on my team who can only kick a 52, and then after that we just punt the ball. And with an unreliable punter, that doesn't seem to work much of the time. So that's it for those guys. Now, guys that are under contract past this new league year, the only guy I'm really looking at is Malcolm Smith. He can save us $7.2 million over the next 2 years, and he just was beaten way too much in the past games this year. I just don't think he has a spot on our team. He's too slow. He doesn't stop the run as well anymore, which is a specialty. I think saving that money is very important. So I'm releasing him. Now, other guys that we've released already, we have Pierre Garçon, Gary Gilliam, John Flynn, Earl Mitchell. Again, they were just released to save cap space so we can get more valuable guys in free agency and maybe trade for other guys, which we will see here in a minute. Ronbo, anything you have to say?
No, no, I almost passed out on Robbie Gould, but you know what? I'm looking forward to seeing who you're going to replace him with because it kind of sounds legit. Actually, we'll see, but I'm okay for that.
Yeah.
What do have a question? Are you done with that? Let's go ahead and give you this question right now. Then,
What's
local
it?
49ers fan says, would you consider Glover Quinn?
I would not because I think there are like 5 better safeties than Glover Quinn. He's very old. I believe he's 32, if I'm not mistaken. Not a guy I want. He just got beat way too much with the Lions. I heard of injury issues too. I don't want to have that on my team. I'm only considering signing guys who are susceptible to injury if they are game-breaking talents, which you will
Mm,
see here in a minute.
all
So,
right. And Dustin, we're going to save your question because he's gonna go over the draft segment right after free agency. Huh? Okay. Let me go over what you just said just to make it refresh in everybody's mind. All right.
all right.
We got DB, uh, Jimmy Ward. Let me see if I'm going to switch screens here. Okay. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. Players who will be signed. Jimmy Ward will be signed a 2-year deal, 6.5 mil. Long snapper Kyle Nelson, 2 years, 1.8 mil. Raheem Mostert, 2 years, 2.5 mil. And Bradley Pinion, 1-year contract for 125. You gotta like that because Bradley continues to struggle next year. Maybe we could be looking for another kicker between now and next year. Uh, and then there's Elijah Lee, 2 years, 2 mil. And players who will not be resigned include Mike Person, Robbie Gould, Alfred Morris, Anton Exum, Tyvis Powell. I'm telling everyone, Tyvis Powell, God, Greg Maben, and the cut list is already included, as you know, Pierre Garçon, Malcolm Smith, and Gary Gilliam. All right, Tony.
All right. I think I missed a couple guys there, but that's all right. It wasn't really much to talk about.
Hmm.
So now on to free agents that we are going to sign in the next coming weeks. We have Earl Thomas. to a 3 year, $31.5 million contract at 30 years old. The thing with him, he broke his leg 2 times in the past 2 seasons, but I don't think that broken bones are going to keep happening. If that makes sense, there might be other injuries, but I don't think those are ones that keep coming back after you break your bone. Um, so that's the main issue with him. I think the only other team that's going to have a shot at him are the Dallas Cowboys. But we have Sherm. We have the ability to play the Seahawks 2 times a year. So I think that's something he'll consider and something we're going to take advantage of. The
Mm.
next guy I have is Bruce Irvin, defensive end, formerly of the Atlanta Falcons and Oakland Raiders. And I'm signing him to a 1 year, $2.2 million contract at 32 years old. The thing with him, he's a veteran, and something we can take away to teach our guys is how to be a leader, how to play the position the right way. He definitely has a few tricks up his sleeve. So I'm looking forward to having him on the team to teach some of the younger guys how to really play the position. The next guy I have is left guard Quentin Spain, formerly of the Tennessee Titans, to a 3 year, $8.6 million contract at 28 years old. He's a great run blocker. I think there's a lot of potential for him in pass blocking. And quite frankly, he is a major upgrade at our positions of guards right now. I think he brings a lot more to the table. He's a lot more versatile. He can play on the left or right side, which is something that we haven't really had consistent play from. I remember Zane Beadles a couple years ago. He could play both guard spots, but when he moved from one to the other, it was just a terrible transition.
Sure.
So um, next guy, Anthony Barr, strong side linebacker, to a 4 year, $42.5 million contract at 26 years old. I love myself some Anthony Barr. And right now, the asking price, I believe, is going to be 10 million a year minimum. I don't want to pay any more than 45 million for a 4 year contract for him, only because he's been inconsistent. His PFF grades have not been great the last 2 years. I think if we can get him in here and we can give him a reliable front four, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to be a very good playmaker. I just don't want him getting hurdled by quarterbacks anymore. So the next guy I have is Pierre Desir, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts, to a 2 year, $8.4 million contract at 28 years old. I think he's a very good player. He is over 6 feet, which fits our scheme quite well. He has good ball skills, great in zone coverage. He's going to be a great asset to this team. And I don't want Akello Witherspoon being our second cornerback. I think that is a terrible mistake. Even if he does have potential, I don't want to have him in the fire, just doing whatever he wants, not showing up on certain plays. I want a proven guy who can get the job done no matter what. I don't want to keep going off of talent that we drafted. I want to make sure we have guys in place to win games for us. So the next guy, the replacement for Robbie Gould, Matt Bryant, to a 2 year, $5.75 million contract. He is 43, but this past season before his release, he only missed one field goal. And he can probably still kick from 59 yards. That's how strong his leg is. I don't see any reason why we should keep Robbie Gould when we might miss a few more kicks, but we'll have more chances to kick field goals in return, longer field goals to win games. So I think he's going to be a great asset to the team. He's an upgrade over Robbie Gould, in my opinion. And plus, Robbie doesn't want to really play here anymore. He's more interested in Chicago.
Mm.
So the last guy I'm signing is Donovan Smith, a guard or tackle. He can play either position. He was drafted as a guard, but now he's playing as a tackle to a 2 year, $3.66 million contract at 25. Um, he will be a great replacement for Gary Gilliam. A lot cheaper, in my opinion. You can just see it there. It's a lot less money per year. And he can play all over the offensive line, which is something that we haven't had. And with injuries engulfing the team the past 2 years, having a guy like that would be invaluable to keep the success of our team where we want it to be. And I'm glad to have all these guys join the team. That's it for that. Ronbo, any comments?
Mm. All right. It seems like everybody's following along. No questions on that. Tony, you know what I really enjoyed about this segment, though? Some of the things that you explained. Uh, it seems, like Ian Sharp says the Bears have already signed a kicker. Um, Some of the
Doesn't mean they won't sign another one. We've seen that in the past.
Yeah, not only that, as I remember, that Bears kicker. Somebody pointed out that Bears kicker was Camp Fodder that's coming in to push. They're going to bring in another kicker. There's one reason why I didn't even know who the guy was. So yeah, you're right. I think they do bring in another kicker. So yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We okay. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. It's fine.
No, no, I think we're that's it for the questioning. I see. All right. There'll probably be more
All right.
questions. Uh, Remember, let me just mention this. If you do have any questions for Tony, please let the GM know what is on your mind. Yeah, that's hashtag Q followed by your question. We'll get it right to him. All right.
All right. Now
And
to
by the way,
trades.
I'm sorry, Tony. One more thing. And you can go to the app right now and vote for our GM if you think you've heard what you need to hear. Whether you want to vote yes or no, the poll is there for you for the questioning. Okay. All right, Tony, go ahead.
All right. Now for trades, I have us going for Antonio Brown. We are giving up Adrian Colbert, which I know is a very popular name in the community, but quite frankly, what I saw from him the first few games of the year, I'm not convinced. I don't want to wait for him. We have Earl Thomas now, right? We're going to draft another safety in the later rounds, which I'll get to once we get to that part of the segment. But I don't think we need him anymore. I think we're fine. I think we can give him and a second round pick this year for Antonio Brown and a conditional 2026 round pick. The thing with Antonio Brown, there's obviously stuff attached to his name. He was in a domestic dispute quite recently, but I think he just needs a change of scenery, honestly. I don't think him and the organization of the Pittsburgh Steelers are really on the same page right now. I think he just needs to get out of that building, get into a new one where there's a quarterback, an offensive guru that he can just play with and have success with. So I think that's it for that. I think he'll be wearing 84 in San Francisco next year. The next trade I have, the last trade that is CJ Beathard. Now we have Nick Mullins. I don't want to keep Beathard on the practice squad. I think we can milk a 2025th round pick out of him from the Washington Redskins. I think he really doesn't have a place on this team anymore. He's inaccurate, terrible pocket awareness. He's not a Shanahan quarterback, in my opinion. You need to be quick on your feet. You need to have good IQ, and he just doesn't have that. So that's it for free agency and trades. Before I move on to the draft, do you have anything to say, Rombo?
No, as a matter of fact, I kind of I like that. Let's go ahead and go over what Tony just mentioned. His potential free agent signing: Earl Thomas, 3 years, 31.5 mil. Bruce Irvin, 1 year, 2.2 million. Guard Quentin Spain, 3 years, 8.6 mil. OLB Anthony Barr, 4 years, 42.5 mil. And cornerback Pierre Desir, 2 years, 8.4 mil. Because we are done with the Keller Witherspoon experiment. K-Matt Bryant, 2 years, 5.75 mil. And OT Donovan Smith, 2 years, 3.66 mil. All right. And I see the trades here. Pitt receives 2019 second round pick for Adrian Colbert. Okay, I'm getting to that. San Francisco receives wide receiver Antonio Brown, 2020 conditional sixth round pick. And this will be interesting because I got a feeling the Steelers might bite on something like that. And number two was Washington receives C.J. Beathard, poor Washington, and San Francisco receives a 2025th. Wouldn't it be, it'd be funny? Wouldn't it be funny, Tony, if I think there's nobody that disagrees with the fact that C.J. is not going to fit this team, but he goes off and for some reason morphs into a quarterback.
Yeah.
But we got to wish him the best of luck because I like CJ, but I can see what
He's
you're
a good
talking
guy.
about. All right,
I just
continue.
don't want to run my team on a bunch of good guys. I want to have good players too.
Yeah,
I
amen.
want to meet somewhere in the middle.
Wait, I do see questions. I'm sorry. Graphic Kicks wants to know, do you like Jordan Hicks?
I think he's a great player, but he's had multiple ligament tears. I don't want to bet my money on that, honestly. I think he's very explosive, but he's kind of undersized. I don't know if he's going to be able to fit what we're doing specifically. The 4-3 that Philly runs is kind of different from the one we run. So I don't know how exactly he would fit into that. Plus, I think the Eagles are probably going to keep him. So,
That's a good answer because I was reading about Hicks and I got all excited too, and I noticed that the reason Eagles wanted to move on, although the Eagles haven't said they're going to move on from him, but I understand he's had a pretty vicious injury and hasn't been the same since that
yeah.
Achilles injury a couple of seasons back.
hmm
Um, and also, no, what are you thinking about Gravity's also? What do you think about Landon Collins?
Well, after what I saw George Kittle do to him, I don't want to pay him Earl Thomas type of money. Because if we're going to be manning up a guy like Landon Collins on a great receiver, a slot receiver, or tight end, I don't want
Yeah,
him getting burned every play.
yeah,
Now, I don't think that'll be his role.
yeah.
Um, but if he comes in, we'll have to move Kwaski to free safety. And I think he's a better strong safety in the box than Landon Collins is. So if we can get Earl Thomas instead, we can get a position of need um, and fill out our defense. I think people forget that there's multiple types of positions at every position. There's left and right sides. There's free safety, strong safety. There's a lot of other things that you have to account for. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just a safety.
I agree because Landon Collins. Truth be told, CJ smoked him year before last. That was Landon Collins that was being
Yeah,
destroyed, and that's how pretty much we won that game. Uh, Kenny has a question. He says, "Are you saying Lawrence, Clowney, Clark, Graham will be franchise tag, or do you just not like them?" Yeah,
definitely,
that's an easy one to answer,
definitely.
though, Kenny.
There's no way they're
Yeah,
leaving.
they've. Go
I
ahead.
say the guy who has the biggest shot at leaving is Trey Flowers because he's in New England. They're on limited money. I don't know if they're going to keep him because he's going to want big money. That's the one guy, but then again, he might be the best guy. So there's going to be multiple teams going after him, maybe
Mm-hmm.
around a dozen, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of teams need pass rushers.
Mm-hmm. And Kenny, you're up there in the area. I've already heard Pete Carroll is running around campaigning around town, even saying we are not about to let Clark leave. So
Yeah, Frank Clark
he's
is staying.
really out. As far as Lawrence, Dallas, Jerry Jones knows no matter how much he's loving Dallas, he lets Lawrence walk. He's dead meat. Uh,
Yeah, he's phenomenal. There's no way he leaves, and they have cap space
yeah.
right now.
And they do. Yeah, I understand they got 54 million, and I was kind of surprised at that. As far as Clowney goes, I the Texans have to be real careful with this because their defense is there's a balance going on between there that I kind of believe. The Texans would be out of their mind to let him leave unless they got some really huge offer back because you don't upset things like that.
Yeah.
And did we talk? Did you mention Brandon Graham? Uh, is he a
No, but I think he's too old, honestly, to play um, for the next couple of years. If I'm signing a guy right now, I want him to be for a while, um, or I draft another guy so I can keep him for 4 to 5 years. I don't want to pick up Brandon Graham for 2 years and then the last 2 years of his contract, he's just getting 3, 4 sacks a year.
yeah?
Once they hit 33, 34, that's when they start to slow down.
Mm.
Um, I'm not going to bet against time. That never works.
All right. And also, let's see. Why do you think players will come here for the cheap in free agency? Donovan Smith is going to get a lot more on the market.
Well, the thing with Donovan, it's kind of hard to evaluate what he's going to get on the market because he's been so inconsistent and a backup for the Buccaneers. So it's hard to evaluate. He can make anywhere from 1.5 to 3.5 million per year, in my opinion, but there really is no way to tell. Now, I do think guys are going to want to come here for cheap, not because they don't have better offers, but because it's San Francisco. We're building. There's a future here, right?
Mm,
And that might just be the difference between $2 million a team offers more per year than we do. So,
mm. It's
yeah. Plus,
good
there's
point.
really good
And
weather.
yeah, there you go. And don't forget about Fisherman's Wharf. That chowder is underrated. And Sheik wants to know with McKinnon coming from an ACL injury, if we cut him, there are no guaranteed money and get Bell. He'd be perfect fit with Kyle.
No. I can't. Le'Veon Bell already has 2 suspensions for drugs, and he's going to want to make a lot more money that we won't have because we're going to be paying other players. And we haven't used Jarek yet. I think his value comes in being a 3 down running back who can pass protect as well. He's very strong. He's very fast. I think he's going
Mm,
to be very good in this system. We just need to give him a shot, honestly.
mm. And that tweet yesterday convinced me exactly what you're saying. And I sort of, as soon as I read, I'm ready. I says, that's all I need to know. Because I got a feeling, Jarek, they say him and Jimmy push each other. And they work their butts off. So, and
Yeah,
we've seen a number of running backs come back, and they're pretty much the same. Jarek McKinnon, of course, his speed is essential because he's got a lot of it. So if he can cut, if he can go, and still got time to even recover even further. If he can cut and do the things that Jarek McKinnon does, I think people are going to be surprised what they see about Jarek McKinnon. A lot of people had their doubts the last year. They said he's only a second or third round running back, but he was in Minnesota. When you're running
yeah.
behind a legend like he was, okay, it makes sense. And I don't know why Minnesota ran him behind. Who was that running back in Minnesota last year before
They
Jarek
had
got traded?
Cook and Latavius Murray in front of
Yeah,
him.
Latavius is another story. Now, it may be the scheme they were running, but what people aren't focusing on, they don't understand how Kyle's going to use him. And the thing is, questioning
Exactly.
Kyle on why he got Jarek McKinnon is really probably not a good idea. I think that'll unfold once Jarek gets back onto the field.
Hmm.
So,
I definitely agree. For every player he has, he tries to get the most out of them by putting them in situations where they can succeed. So I'm not going
absolutely.
to root against Kyle. I'm going to make sure he has the guys he wants.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Jim Thorokill says, why not send a 2019 fourth and sixth for that same return from Pittsburgh and a seventh for Bethard is all we can get?
Well, a 2025th is really like a 6th round pick, and some teams might value that a bit lower because it is next year's pick. So for CJ, I think that makes sense. Could you repeat the first part? I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, I was it's a little confusing for me too. It was, why not send a 2019 fourth and sixth for the same return from Pittsburgh and a seventh for Bethard is all we could probably get. Um,
Well, I don't. I get what he's saying now. I don't think that the Steelers are interested in mid and low round picks. I think they're going to want a 2nd round pick at least, bare minimum. So that's that, and we give up a backup safety, and they're in desperate need. So I think that trade makes good sense. I don't think they're going to bite on a 4th and a 6th round pick, even with Adrian Colbert. It's
yeah.
nowhere near a second.
Yeah, because the dealing that they did with Vance McDonald, they did well with that deal. Actually, in fact, I look at Pittsburgh as having won that deal because Vance
Hmm.
McDonald did a lot of great work for him. So, but this deal, this would be too much in our favor, Jim. My feeling is, and I don't think Pittsburgh would actually bite on that either.
Yeah.
Uh, Quest for Six says, why not sign Flowers or Paradis? Both ranked top three in their positions and our biggest needs, edge and interior line.
Well, I think personally, I don't like Richburg. Somehow he managed to be the 33rd ranked center by PFF when there's only 32 teams. And he's the 3rd highest paid guard in the league, or center, I should say.
Yeah.
Um, I really don't like him, but I don't think Kyle's going to give up on him yet. As for Paradis, he's more of a center too, so he can't really move to guard. I think you'd be losing value if you did that. And quite frankly, with him and Flowers, they're at the top of their position, so they're definitely going to get a lot of offers, and we don't have the money to keep up with positions we already have. Um, and for Trey Flowers, I don't think that's really true, but there's a lot more value we can get through the draft, in my opinion, than paying him 28 million a year, which it might come down to, honestly.
Mm. And
I'm
oh,
looking at my draft here, and
mm,
there's probably 6 or 7 guys I would draft before paying a guy 28 million a year.
mm, mm. Also, Sheik, I just want to address the Le'Veon Bell situation. That's not even settled in Pittsburgh. From what I understand, the Steelers are still threatening to tag Le'Veon and then make people trade for him. So the Le'Veon Bell thing is so toxic. I don't even at this point, after him being off for a year and everything, I I think McKinnon would still be a bargain over. We don't know when we get Le'Veon. You get him over here, you're going to pay an incredible amount of money that's going
Mhm.
to postpone any efforts you may have to signing other players. And then he comes in and he doesn't fit Kyle's program. Although I got a feeling I understand Le'Veon would probably fit anybody's program, but that would be a risk. Bigger risk
Yeah,
than
I'm not.
necessary.
We,
Yeah.
we'd have to pay him double McKinnon's contract for the same amount of time. I don't
Hmm.
want to bring in a guy with baggage and past history
And that too.
of illegal and illicit stuff. So
Hmm.
just not my guy.
And I got a feeling he went buck wild with the illicit stuff last season as he
Yeah.
was off all year. Some of the decisions he made, he could have came in and got paid. He just shows up for game eight, week 9 or 10, and he's still, whoa. But anyway, that's his business. Tony, go
Mhm.
ahead, jump right onto that draft.
All right. So for the draft, there's going to be a lot of moving up and down. I want to get the most value that we can out of this draft. So in the first round, we're going to start off with the second overall pick, and we are going back to 7. Any trade with Jacksonville, we get the 7th overall this year. We get a second and a sixth as well. Um, we also receive a 2020 first and second round pick, as well as a 2021 third. Um, Jacksonville receives a second overall and then fifth and sixth round picks from next year. I think the main thing here is it's very similar to the Cleveland Philadelphia trade for Carson Wentz a couple years ago. Um, this is the price you're going to have to pay for a quarterback, quite frankly. And the thing is, people say that the first teams that need a quarterback are starting at 6 and 7. But the thing is, there's no telling which teams are going to trade down. For all we know, the third, fourth, and fifth picks aren't going to trade down. So that leaves those teams to the second overall pick if they want to get it for their quarterback, or else they're just going to have to wait for another guy. And in most situations, GMs want one guy, so they're going to go straight after them. I think Jacksonville is going to pick Dwayne Haskins with the second overall once they get that. I'm not convinced that a team is going to trade up to 1 because the Raiders are going to be that team to pick Nick Bosa at 1. Um, that's it for that. From the 7th overall pick, I'm trading back again to the 15th overall to get a first round pick next year. Um, and Washington gets the 7th overall, like I said. Now, the big thing with this is we can get more talent next year. What I'm trying to do here is it's not about getting all the guys we can in this draft, it's about building for the future. And if things go south with free agency and the draft picks we have this year, we have a cushion for next year, which might even save the jobs of the executives in the building. So with that said, at the 15th overall pick, I'm not trading back down anymore. I'm picking Ja'Kai Polite from Florida. Um, some pros with him. He's extremely athletic. He gets to top speed very quickly. He is just outstanding with his coordination. He knows exactly where he is all the time, and he knows how to get past linemen without even thinking. He is effective in multiple stances. He can be in a 2-point stance, 3-point stance. He can be standing up. It doesn't matter. He's still wreaking havoc on every play. His technique is very good, aside from something I'm going to talk about in a bit here. But aside from what I'm going to talk about, he's very clean with his technique. He knows his moves. He knows how to do it well. And he has a very high motor. That's something a lot of guys don't have. Ja'Kai Polite will never give up on a play. He's always out there to get the ball. And another thing to add with him, he had 6 strip sacks this year on the quarterback. That is very good. My NFL comparison is Yannick Ngakoue from the Jaguars, but I think he's more athletic. In my opinion, he's more explosive than Josh Allen, a guy that I think everyone in the community is looking at right now to be a starter on the defensive line. Um, from what I saw on tape, it's very close, but Polite is faster off the line of scrimmage than Josh Allen. Now, for cons, he's undersized, which affects the run game because his arms are too short. He can't get out. He can't manipulate blockers the way he wants to. Oftentimes, he shoots a gap too aggressively, and it leaves a wide open hole for run fits or run lanes, I should say. So that's one thing he needs to work on. The thing I was talking about in his technique, he takes false steps a lot in the 2-point stance. If he can correct that, which I think isn't that hard to fix, if he can correct that, I think he's the best pass rusher behind Nick Bosa in this draft. Um, One more thing, he has a lack of secondary counters. So once an offensive lineman beats him, it's hard for him to come back. But he has a high motor. He's not going to give up. That's one thing that I think everyone can look forward to when he's wearing a jersey on the 49ers. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So, and also to fix the run problem, I think he can kick inside during rundowns. Where Solomon T is, they might switch positions. That way, he can be more like an Aaron Donald, a 6 foot guy who just penetrates through the gap. Um, and it doesn't matter how aggressive you are because you're going straight up the middle. Anything you'd like to add there, Ronbo?
No, I'm a little intrigued by. I was watching some footage of him the other day. He is lightning quick, and I would have never said it. That was pretty bold, but I did think that he may be a step faster than
Hmm.
Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is lightning quick too, but
Yeah.
he also he over pursues at time. That was an observation I did also notice, and takes himself out of place. But you know what?
Hmm.
With that kind of guy, we've got Chris Kasurik this year. I'd rather have that kind of guy where I could make adjustments on tell him when to pump the brakes and when to speed up. Uh, this may be the case if Kasurik looks at him and he says he may be thinking along the same lines as you are, because the popular choice doesn't necessarily have to be the best choice,
Hmm.
and from an analytical
Definitely.
point of view, could be. So, all
Yeah.
right, all
I
right.
mean, he's my guy. He has technique already. He's very athletic. He's the type of guy you want to um, build around, in my opinion. Although we have pieces, I think he's going to be a cornerstone, as Lynch would like to say, on our team. So now moving into the second round, 36 overall pick. This is our own pick. We get Chris Lindstrom from Boston College. He is a guard. Um, he uses his hands very well. From what I saw, he's very controlled. He is just great, honestly. He's very consistent. His run blocking is very good. His pass protection. The thing with that is he's, in my opinion, a great pass protector, but Boston College runs a very run heavy offense. So it's kind of hard to value his pass protection when you keep that in mind because he's not doing it most of the time. If you look at Texas Tech, they have a very pass-heavy offense, so you wouldn't really want to look at a run-blocking guard from that school and take every snap for what it is because it might be different when he translates to the league. Um, Few cons I have: the run-heavy offense, like I mentioned, and then in zone run, sometimes he has an issue finding the guy in the gap. Sometimes the explosive guys get the better of him, but honestly, I think he's worth it. He can correct that with good technique. We have a very good offensive line coach, in my opinion. So I think we'll be fine when we pick him. He's going to be a great player. He's going to be able to protect Jimmy, and that's honestly all we can ask for right now. Great run blocker with good pass protection ability as well. Now, moving on to 38, we are getting Marquise Brown from Oklahoma. Nickname is Hollywood. I think he's very, very good. In my opinion, he's like a Deshaun Jackson AB hybrid. He's kind of in between. He's a very crisp route runner. He goes up for contested catches and is very successful despite his size. He's very fast. I'd like to compare his speed to Will Fuller, where it's not Tyreek Hill, but it's not slow, if that makes sense.
Mm.
His run after catch ability is very good. He can make guys miss in the open field, which is very good. He has a good football IQ, which is something that a lot of receivers don't have nowadays. They just run their route, but he's a very smart receiver. Um, Cons with him, he fumbles the ball when he has a loose grip with the football. That's something he can fix, I think. So it's not that big of a deal. Um, and then, although he blocks well for his size, I don't think he's a great run blocker because he's only 5'10. Um, Julio Jones in Atlanta, he's tall, he can block well, he has good mechanics. You take out the 5 inches, I think his ability to run block goes way down. Anything you'd like to add?
No, no. I was reading Hollywood. They. I saw one report has him at 170, another one has him at 160. I honestly, I fear for his life. I uh, I don't know how many hits he can actually take. Actually he survived. It's not like everybody in college ball is small. So you know
Hmm.
what? He may be fine. I just hopefully he's got resilience. His cousin is, I think they're cousins. Him and Antonio was not
Yeah,
that big when he came into the league, and he hasn't missed that many games down through the years. So it may be like Russell Wilson. You just got to know how to take a hit. So
exactly.
because
Now,
you know, Tony, he's Kyle's kind of guy, though. You're absolutely
I
right.
agree.
That is Kyle's kind of guy. In fact, you're gonna have to hold Kyle back if he's available any other round besides the first round. Look for him to be
Definitely.
on the 49ers squad. I see it coming. So yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Another receiver I think could be a good fit. We can probably trade up with the picks I accumulated, go back in the first round, is DK Metcalf. He is
Oh,
an absolute beast. I don't have
yes.
him in this draft, but I would not be upset at all if the front office came down to that. He's huge. He's pretty fast for his size. He runs a 4.45 from what I saw.
Mm.
So not that much slower than Antonio Brown. He's huge. He can make every type of catch imaginable. He's very strong. He's a great blocker. So that's a
That's it.
guy I would pick probably in the early 20s, late 20s, somewhere around there. But just not in this one.
Mm.
So this is a pick that we're going to get now, the 42nd overall, and it's not from trading up or trading down from picks we have already. Um, we're just going to give up a seventh this year. Or no, we're receiving a seventh this year with the 42nd overall for a 2019 third and a second round pick next year. And from what I saw, this has happened before in the league. So this makes sense, this type of trade, to move up to the second round without any other picks really in that round. So with the 42nd pick, I'm drafting Amani Oruwariye, cornerback from Penn State. He is a phenomenal player from what I saw. Um, Again, he's playing against great competition, so that definitely makes a difference with him. It's not like he's playing number 4 or 5 receivers in the NFL every single week, or that type of talent, I should say. Um, but yeah, he fits the size of a defender, I would say, in this scheme. He's over 6 foot. He has great awareness and good football intelligence. That's probably the main thing that bumps up his draft grade. He knows where to be all the time. He can read routes very well. He rarely gets beat in man-to-man coverage when he's playing press man-to-man. He's great in all coverages. Now, the one I would caution against is off-man coverage, so lining up 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and taking on a receiver in man coverage. But that's not really what we run. We're more of a cover three, one deep safety type of team. So he'll fit great on the right side. Um, his physicality and his athleticism is incredible. Just watching his tape, those were two things I took away, and it kind of blew me away for a guy at his position doing it against that type of competition. And his ball skills, I believe he only had 3 interceptions this past year, but he's a ball hawk in my opinion. Maybe not the type of guy that Josh Jackson was last year coming out of Iowa with 8 interceptions, but he's pretty damn close to it. Just doesn't have the interceptions to show for it. He'll be able to get more though with the improved defensive line and a guy like Sherman on the other side. Now,
Mm.
cons with him, his tackling is pretty poor. I think that can be improved. That's one thing here between the pros and cons that isn't really based on gifts, I would say. It's more of technique, and I think he can improve that. Same with his feet. Oftentimes he drops back into coverage and his feet aren't set correctly. Um, it would probably allow him to get more interceptions if his feet were better. But again, that's something that our new secondary coach can look at and correct. And the last thing, like I was saying, in off man coverage, he's not a great closer on routes. So let's say he's lined up 5 yards behind the line and there's a quick slant to the middle of the field. He's not going to match it like Sherman does. He just won't be able to because he's not a great closer, but he will read it. He will be there. It just won't be um, him getting to the ball in time to pick it off or swat it away. That's it for the second round. There's no third round picks from this right here. You have anything to add, Rombo?
No, no, I was, I want to mention Tony samples his own model from some of the things he's seen take place. If you're concerned where the rationale is coming from, uh, around some of the things that have actually taken place in the NFL already, which is a good practice because if you've seen how what another team has done and measured whether it passed or failed, you could think in that direction and it might lead you in the right path. So I'm kind of impressed with that. But yeah, go ahead, Tony.
All right. So the next guy we're going to pick up in the fourth round. He will become a great player, but we can't get him unless we trade back from the 97th overall spot, which I have us doing. In receiving the 113th overall pick and a fourth next year from Minnesota, we are going to surrender the 97th overall pick. Um, I think this makes sense here because there really isn't a guy that I would pick at 97 that I wouldn't later in that round. So getting a fourth round pick next year, I think would be pretty valuable. So I have us drafting Trey Watson, Mike linebacker from Maryland. He is intriguing because he has a lot of potential, but he's probably the guy I was like probably the least excited about drafting because his cons are pretty big. Um, I'll start with one. His mental toughness. He got ejected out of a game this year for some really silly stuff. I don't know what he was thinking, but he got ejected because he couldn't control himself. That's something I don't really want in the locker room, but I'm hoping it was a one-time thing. He doesn't meet blockers at the line of scrimmage, and he can't penetrate gaps. Um, Something with Fred Warner, which we might end up moving Trey to the outside and putting Warner at the Mike linebacker. But Trey doesn't penetrate gaps like most linebackers would. He's more of a coverage specialist, I would say. When he meets a blocker at the line, they'll just engulf him. He won't be able to do anything most of the time. That's kind of a big con, but we can put him in passing down specifically because I believe he had 5 interceptions this year, which is a huge pro from the linebacker position. The last con I have on him is his lateral mobility. He doesn't move from side to side very well. From what I saw, it's just not his thing. That's not the player he is. He's better when he's dropping back into his zone and he's responsible for an area of the field, not going from one side to the other trying to get to where the ball is. So pros with him, he's a great insured tackler. He's kind of like Reuben Foster when he tackles. He just can't penetrate through the gaps like Reuben could. His IQ is above average in zone coverage. I think he's a great player in that sense. He knows where the ball is going to be. Most of the time, it's just a matter of if he's going to get to the ball or not, which can be a problem, but it's also a plus if you know where the ball is going to be. You can call it out before the snap, let the rest of the defense know. Like I was saying, he's outstanding in zone coverage, but one thing I would caution with him, if you let him fall too back, probably more than 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, he'll get caught up in the secondary and he won't really realize what's going on around him as well as he would if he were playing within 10 yards of the line. So again, all players this late have their certain stipulations to them, if you will. But I think he's good enough to go in the fourth round and be a coverage guy for us at the Mike linebacker position. The sixth round, I have us trading the 102nd pick to Buffalo. And in turn, we're going to get a 2023 round pick, and we're going to surrender Joshua Garnett. Now, with trading, not trading him, getting Lindstrom and going out for Quentin Spain, there really isn't a need for him on this team. I don't think he's going to be a great player anyway. I think he's a good run blocker, but I just don't want him back because there's other options we can have at run blocking, at the run blocking guard position. We have other guys who can pass protect better and still have probably close to the same amount of effect on run plays. So I just have us getting rid of him. Again, we give up the 100-second, 62nd overall pick. And then we also surrender a 7th round pick next year. This is all for a third next year, which I think is great because we are turning a player and a couple of picks into a quality pick next year that we can use to draft another guy or use it to trade up, get another guy. With that being said, 2 picks later, we have Washington's pick, I believe, or Jacksonville's pick, I should say. And we're yeah, we're drafting J.R. Reed from Georgia. He is a great safety. And the one thing with him is he's not a game changer. He's not dynamic, but he is definitely a very consistent player. He plays with a controlled aggression, something that we see guys like Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack play with, something that helps them, but it doesn't take away from their game at the same time. Um, his tackling is very sure. He's not a big hitter, but once he gets his hands on you, you're almost always going down. They're going to stop the ball right there. He has very active feet, which is something that the best players in the league have. Um, and the worst players fail to do it on a regular basis. So having that type of stuff in there is very crucial. And I think drafting him in the 6th round is almost a steal. Um, Adding on to that, he has great reads. He knows where the ball is going to be, and he's rarely caught out of position. He's not like Reggie Nelson was when Pierre Garçon destroyed him in Week 9 when we played the Raiders. He's not going to be on the other side of the field when he's supposed to be on another. So that's definitely important to have. And with the last pick in our draft, in the 7th round, 199th overall, we have quarterback Gardner Minshew from Washington State. I think he is a better CJ Beathard, a CJ with pocket awareness, which is the main thing that killed him when he was a starter on the team. But yeah, his anticipation is amazing. He knows where to put the ball. And honestly, the main thing holding him back is his accuracy, and that's preventing him from using his anticipation skills well. He has great poise in the pocket. His awareness is outstanding. His mobility is great. He has a strong arm like CJ. He has a beautiful deep ball. And yeah, the only main cons I have for him are technique based and his accuracy, right? His decision making, I think, could use some work, but in Kyle's scheme, I think there won't be much of an issue of that. He's definitely not holding on to the ball for 7 and 8 seconds like CJ when time permits. So I think he's going to be better in that sense. Something I saw from him, which I don't really like, but again, he's a 7th round pick. They're going to come with their cons. He's like Jared Goff in the sense that he looks at one guy and he locks in. It doesn't matter if he's triple covered. He's just going to throw it up and hope for the best. That's something I think Shanahan and the quarterback's coach can work on with him. I hope they're not telling him if he ever does get to play, just throw this one route. It'll be open, because I think, in my opinion, that's what happened to the Rams in the Super Bowl, and that's why they lost. I don't want any of that on my team. And then footwork, another main thing he needs to work on. But again, you can work on that. That's all just a matter of preparation and training. I think they can get a hold of that situation. I think he's going to be a practice squad guy because Nick has earned the spot of the backup, in my opinion. There's no other way around it. That's why I'm giving up CJ Beathard in exchange for a pick. So that's it for my draft, Ronbo. Take it away.
Hey, and Tony explained each and every move. I did enjoy particularly when you use Jared Goff as a bad example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
And
all McVay
Jared,
with him.
I mean, he does throw
So,
that ball up as if to say, well, hopefully my guy will get it. Let's go over Tony's picks again. And remember, you can go on over the app now and vote as to whether Tony should be put in the administration position right now or what. Anyway, first round pick, 15th. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We're going to trade back. Let me start at the top because Tony's got a lot here. But pay attention now. Trade back to the 7th overall to Jacksonville. And San Francisco will receive the 7th overall 2019 second, 2019 sixth, 2020 first, 2020 second, 2021 third. And Jacksonville receives 2nd overall, 2020 fifth, 2020 sixth. And let's see. Yeah, trade 7th overall to 15th. Is that Washington?
yeah.
And San Francisco receives 15th overall, 2020 first. Washington receives 7th overall. And if you know, I like the way Tony drives a tough bargain. If you want a quarterback, quarterbacks can make all the difference in the world in your future. Look at us. We had no quarterback, and all of a sudden we got Jimmy Garoppolo. If we'd have kept him healthy, I think 49ers were an 8-8 team minimum last season, and I counted the wins. So, anyway, we go to the first round pick, defensive end Jachai Polite from Florida. 2nd round pick, 36, guard Chris Lindstrom, Boston College. Second round pick 38, wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown, Oklahoma. You trade 2019 third, 2020 second to Cincinnati for 42nd overall, and 2019 seventh. Second round pick 42, cornerback Amani. Oh my, Tony, give me that last name again. I loved when you pronounced that. I said, how long did it take Tony to figure that one out? That was pretty good. What's his last name? Amani who?
Oruwariye.
All right, out of Penn State. And there's a trade involved here. Trade 97th overall to Minnesota for 113th overall and 2024th. Fourth round pick, 113, inside linebacker Trey Watson from Maryland. And Tony explained some of his goods and bads. Let's see, trade 167. Trade 167 overall. 2027th. Right guard Joshua Garnett will be leaving and going to Buffalo for the 2023rd. Worries me that one then, Tony. I don't know. I worry about Joshua Garnett. Did we get all we can get from him?
I think so. I think he is valuable as a run blocker, but we need complete guys on the team.
True.
And that's why I picked up two other guards in this whole process.
Sixth round pick, 164, safety J.R. Reed out of Georgia. Seventh round pick is at 199th. That is a quarterback, Gardner Minshew, Washington State, as he will be designated most likely to the practice squad in case we, for some reason, undig another gem. Who knew that we had somebody that was better than CJ that was playing behind CJ? I am still impressed with that. 2020 picks accumulated. Washington first, Jackson first, second, Buffalo third, Minnesota fourth, Washington fifth for the Beathard trade. 2021 picks accumulated, Jacksonville third. From Jacksonville, 2020 picks surrendered, second, fifth, sixth, and seventh. It's all a strategy that could turn to gold, Tony. Good stuff. Let's bring those questions. It's Hulk says, the Hulkamaniac wants to know, didn't you having us trade our number 2 pick for Brown?
No, the second round pick. If I said overall, I'm sorry, but I meant the second round pick that we have.
Okay. And Chick says, if B-A-R, Bard off the board, thoughts on bringing in KJ Wright? Chick, there's a typo there. Who's Bard?
Anthony Barr.
Bard.
I would say,
okay. Go ahead.
I think KJ is too old right now. I would rather pick up CJ Mosley if it came down to it, and keep Warner on the outside. I think that's probably the best thing we could do after Anthony Barr. I don't think KJ Wright has a spot on the team. With Bruce Irvin, a former member of the Legion of Boom, it's different because we need guys to come in and teach our defensive linemen how to play correctly with good technique. And bringing in KJ Wright would just be a filler spot for the time being. I don't want that. I want to have guys we can build around for the future.
I like that. You know, as many of those kind of people we can afford to put on the roster without giving up too many roster spaces, I think that's ideal. I really get a rush off of thinking we'd have Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman on the field to save time.
Mm-hmm.
You almost have a machine out there that automatically works.
Definitely.
Due to the fact that they know what that quarterback's going to do before he even does it. That to me, and Richard Sherman explained that. He says, I know the quarterback's going to do as soon as he looks left or right or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you got the guy that covered him the entire time. He has the same mentality, so I'm really all for that.
And another thing, Ronbo, we had 2 interceptions in 16 games. That's why I was very aggressive with drafting and getting secondary players in free agency, because I don't want that to be 2. I want it to be 22.
Exactly.
Right? So.
And it's got to stop next year because that's just outrageously different. But you know what? Addressing the frontline defense is going to make a lot of difference. In Saleh's defensive system, you have to have pressure on the quarterback. Trez, this is what I've been trying to tell you and Trey. You cannot, that system does not work if the quarterback's running around having a good time before he makes his shots. By the way,
and
if
it
you'd
can't
like
be
to,
with a 5-man rush. You have to have a 4-man front getting pressure. That's the only way it works, because then you can disguise other things.
Absolutely. If you'd like to, if you'd like to call in, go to the app, get the PIN number as we go through this, and you can call in right now and we'll pick that call up. Uh, Ryan Hall says, so 3 first round picks next year?
Yeah. And
Wow.
it's not like we have to use all of them in the draft. We can use it for other things, trade for players. Um, and I think that's probably the best thing we can do with it. We can use those picks as well to trade up in this year's draft. I just didn't do it because I feel like if stuff goes wrong this year, we can have next year as a safety blanket. Um, so that was my thinking, but those don't have to be just for picks. They can be for
Mhm.
anything we want them to be.
Yeah, those are $1,000 bills. Every one of those picks, just like you say, without hurting yourself in the draft. Say if you want to give up a draft first round pick, well, that's as appealing as it gets. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you only use one, you get this blue chip player. Wow. And then you got 2 first round picks still left. You got 2 picks in the first round. If you only need 1 pick in the first round, because after a while you start to accumulate so much talent, pretty soon all you need is that 1 pick in the first round. So I can see the thinking
Definitely.
behind that. Uh, Dustin May wants to know: are you on the Bosa trade, even though he has a history of not staying healthy? You
I
didn't
think,
really pick. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So drafting him, I think, would be probably the best thing we could do at number two. But I think the Raiders are just in prime position to move up to one. I don't think the Cardinals are going to draft Bosa because that's not what they need right now.
Mm,
They are pretty good on defense. They just don't have an offense. I think they trade back. They pick up a tackle, maybe um, some type of offensive player that I don't think they can get with number one and
mm,
still have its full value.
mm.
Um, so I think the Raiders are going to use 2 first-round picks to do that, which means
Who?
Bosa's off the board.
Oh,
And I'm not a big Josh Allen fan because we can get pretty much the same player, maybe even better, because he fits the scheme at 15.
God!
So
If the
just food for
Raiders,
thought.
yeah, but if the Raiders use 2 first round picks, and you know what? The Cardinals would actually say, "You guys, we're not going to just trade you straight up. You're going to have to give us more than that." And
Oh
Gruden
yeah,
probably would say in a heartbeat, all right, give you two. Take both of them." I could see that happening. But my
hmm
God, that would be another bad move on Gruden's part, though, because
well, he
I
screwed
understand
himself by trading away Khalil Mack. Now
to
he's just
begin
going to
with.
have to give back the same stuff he got for Khalil Mack to get Nick Bosa.
Ah, God, that's frightening. What a mess will have made at that point. And you're right, too. And I tell you, Tony, just to run this by you real quick, I still think, and I look at the what's the coach's name? New coach's name in Arizona, Kingsbury.
Kingsbury, yeah.
Yeah, when Kingsbury has that grin on his face when he says Josh Rose is my guy, I know damn well Josh Rose is not his guy,
Oh
and
yeah,
he's not
I don't think
kidding.
he is.
He really does want. Kyle Murray is so, just like you said, they don't have any defensive issues really. The Cardinals, not really. They can pick him
They
up
just
anywhere in the
need
draft.
another cornerback, in my opinion, which can easily be addressed in free agency. There's no
True.
need to spend a top five pick on that.
And you get Kyler Murray, you trade Rosen in the first round, which would actually be a problem for us because maybe Jacksonville says we get Rosen in here, and that's a lot better than Bortles, and we just straight
Ronbo.
trade up. Wow.
Imagine this. They trade back to four with Oakland, right?
Yeah.
They pick up Kyler Murray, and then they trade Rosen to the Patriots for a first round pick, you could say.
Oh,
I think he's
yes.
still worth a first round pick only because he just didn't have an offense to work with last year, and we really don't know with him.
Yeah.
So I think you do that. You get Tom Brady's backup for the next few years. And
Mm.
then when he's ready to retire, Rosen takes over. I think he could do wonders in that offense,
There's,
honestly.
there's a strategy. He's a solid pocket passer. He's his accuracy is nice. He just needs to get the NFL speed down. I think he'd be ready to go.
And he
Uh,
needs an offensive line.
And then I said that. Sam Marr wants to know why not get Brian Burns, FSU, instead. He's a super polished. All he needs to add weight. His upside is sky high.
I just, for me, when I'm in a 4-3, I like to have really fast guys off the edge that can win in multiple ways and they don't have to be in one certain position. What I saw from Brian Burns, now I don't know how accurate this is because I didn't watch that much film on him, but he lines up in the same stance too many times per game. And when he does play, he uses the same moves over and over and over. It's not like he has an arsenal to go
Mm.
through. Now, I think he's a very good player, but I think Ja'Kai Polite is faster, a lot faster. and it's just better for our team from what I see. Um, so yeah, and I also think that he has just as much upside as Brian Burns. So
Mm,
there's no reason to go the other way.
mm. And you're not, with Jachai, you're not going to be double teaming Buckner knowing that bullet is coming off the edge. I do like the speed thing too. I like Joe and Nick for his technique, but speed is a very, even if he doesn't get there, you don't address him coming off that edge, you're going to get killed from the interior.
Hmm.
Uh, Sheik is on the phone. Sheik, go ahead. Sheik, what is your question for a GM of the day?
What's up, Rama? What's up, Tony? Hey, I love what you guys are doing and what kind of trade value and all that stuff. But let me ask you this, Tony.
Okay.
I understand like you wanted polite and all that.
Hmm.
Why pass on Bosa, Allen, Sweat, and get multiple? Because honestly, we need pass rusher. That's what we have. We have Armstead, Turtle there. So,
All right.
and why pass up on those guys for polite?
Well, the first thing, Bosa, I think he's going to be off the board by then. I think the Raiders are going to make a move for him at the first overall pick. So he's off the table. And after that, I just see a bunch of guys in the same area, right? I think Montez Sweat, he's going to be around where Ja'Kai Polite is drafted. And I don't think I've seen enough from Sweat to say that picking up another first round pick um, is less valuable than just getting Montez Sweat straight up. With Josh Allen, I think you see a lot of the stuff you see in Ja'Kai Polite in Josh Allen. The only difference is the size and the scheme fit. And I think Ja'Kai Polite fits our scheme better. I don't think Josh Allen is a great 4-3 player. We haven't seen him there. He's a great 3-4 rusher, but we don't know how he is at the other position. And I'm not the type of guy to move guys from scheme to scheme because oftentimes it doesn't work out. So that's my answer to that.
Hmm. Sheik?
I totally understand that. Also, before I go, Josh Allen, this year he played hands 4-3 a little bit, hands down. So I believe he got 7. But he could do a lot of things. But I
Okay.
agree with your other picks and all that. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, great job though. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to the Ronbo crew and all the chat rooms, and hit that like for this show. Hey guys, peace.
Thanks, Sheik. You know, I think, we got to keep in mind, Jachai, he is ranked, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, Jachai is ranked in the top 5. Is he number 3, Tony, as far as the ranking goes, as far as defensive ends?
I don't look at those rankings. I just go based on what I see.
Yeah, that's a good point too. But as I say, as some are looking at him, Jachai is ranked up there really high. So picking others ahead of him is it's not the way you should look at him. Actually, as Tony puts it, but if you're looking at some of the analysts as what they put these guys ranked as, because you already know Nick is number 1. I think Josh is ranked number 3 behind Rashawn. Right. Yeah, I got to tell you, Tony, I am concerned about Rashawn Gary. I I was watching the other day. I was thinking, he is he's Jesus. He's almost unblockable, Tony. I wonder if that's going to appeal to Lynch.
Well, the thing is with him, he's going to run probably around a 5-second 40. He's way too slow
I
to
think
be
so
a
too.
defensive end in the 4-3. He's going
Yeah,
to be an outstanding interior rusher, but we don't need that right now.
yeah,
I would say
that's
we have
true.
3 guys on the team right now that we drafted in the first round that are very capable of playing that position and having success.
And I don't think Rashawn, he beats people up as he comes around that corner. I don't think he can beat up Quentin Nelson or that type. So
Yeah.
maybe, yeah. Listen, let's go to Lee. Lee, come on in, Lee.
Yo, what up, Ronbo? So
Hey,
steady.
Lee, I'm doing all right, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks, Ronbo.
All right. What is your question, Lee?
My question for Tony is good effort in your GM show, Tony. And you put a lot of work into it. My question is you just before I ask the question, touching on from what Sheik said. Yeah, I know you picked Polite at 15, mid round at 15. But you know that Polite played a 3-4 outside linebacker, right? It's just like Josh Allen.
Oh yeah.
Do you think he is
but
actually going to transition as a good 4-3 in our scheme as a defensive end? Because he is, 6'2", 240 something?
yeah. I get the concern. He played 4-3 a lot, and he had success mostly from there.
Yeah.
As I also said, he was a stand-up linebacker at times in the 4-man front, and he had success with that too. I just saw enough from the 4-3 to say that he's going to fit the scheme. And with the height, being 6'2", it's kind of worrisome to me on rundowns, but during passing downs, I think he's going to be an animal. He might be the second best pass rusher in the draft. It's just a matter of being beat in rundowns, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think if you look at him and Josh Allen is definitely better in the stopping the run, and he is a bit more big. He has a bit more size than Polite. So yeah, I wasn't too sure about how he'd be a better fit than Allen. But moving on to my question. My question is, why would you take, say, Hollywood Brown in the second if you had an opportunity to get Hakeem Butler? As when I look at Hollywood, he looks more like a 2.0 version of Goodwin. He's a speed machine and he's only small. Well, we really need a big guy that's more of a red zone threat.
Well, the way I look at that, I don't necessarily think we need a red zone threat. I think the best thing we can do for the offense is have a second speed receiver, because when Marquise goes on the field, if there's any deep routes, they're automatically keying on him. But if we have both Marquises on the field at the same time, it's going to be a lot harder to tell what we're doing. And also, if one guy gets hurt, I mean, with Marquise now, when he was hurt, we didn't have any speed.
Yeah.
If he goes down, we have Hollywood just on the other side, just doing his thing, still having speed. So I think the thing I've learned from Kyle these past 5 years through all of his different jobs is you can never have enough speed. I think he's going to attack that aggressively. There's probably some guys we can get in free agency as well. Like I said, we could draft DK Metcalf instead, but I just think Marquise is the best thing we can get right now.
Yeah, I like your answer because obviously, like you said, if you get Hollywood, he has the speed like Goodwin, and you could have either on either side of the field, and it could stretch the secondary out and it'll open up, more space for guys like Kittle going across the middle, or even Peterson or Slotty.
And
thanks, Tony.
And
Good job
double
today.
teaming, Lee. Now my dream scenario is exactly that. I got Goodwin on one side of the field, a guy like Hollywood Brown on the other side of the field. You gonna double team anybody here now? You got George Kittle working the interior. You've got Dante Pettis with his skill set possibly coming out of the slot. I got Jared
Antonio
McKinnon,
Brown.
who also, I also Antonio Brown. That would be scary. I got Dante Pettis running routes out of the slot. I got Jared McKinnon that's possibly running route outside from his position. This gives Jimmy G, with his incredible ability to process immediately, so many options. And you can depend on him to get the right one. Those streaking speedsters are probably going to be first thing he looks at. If they've got a man beat, and chances are they're going to most of the time, we've got a touchdown. Otherwise, give it to George Kittle or give it to Hollywood Brown. These two guys after the catch are ridiculous. Oh, Kyle and his speed is such a big deal in the NFL, and it's going to become a bigger and bigger deal as the teams or the NFL evolves. And I'm noticing speed is becoming the thing because that's what Julio brought to Atlanta. Big. He is the freak of it could be in history. That kind of speed, that kind of size, that kind of strength, you'll never see another Julio.
I completely agree. And DK is probably the closest guy I've seen in the past 5 years. And he's probably close to a tenth of a second slower than him in the 40.
Right.
So,
Got it. What a thing. And let's get Lee. Thanks, Lee. Let's get Linwood in here. Linwood.
What's up, Ronbo?
Hey, Linwood. Man, I've been sitting back here and watching Tony pull out what's going to be, what potentially could be a championship team. What are you thinking, Linwood? What do you got on what's the question?
Well, I don't have any questions. I had a different direction.
Well, Linwood, let's set you up then for your own draft night because right now we're not gonna have time. But we're gonna get to through this as many times as fast as we can. So we'll go ahead and see you in a little while, then. Because we're going to be doing the gathering just a little bit.
So, yeah, because I have a different direction. That's from free agency and what we're built for, what we're not built for.
Yeah.
So
Let me. I tell you what. Let me. Let's go ahead and get, because what we can't do right now is go through your entire direction. But what we can do is take any question you might have. But let's get you in here, and you could be a GM. All right. All right.
oh, that sounds good. That sounds good, Ronbo.
All right, then. But call back in just a little bit. All right. Let's. Let me get another question here real quick. And Sam wants to know, why wouldn't you choose Kelvin Harmon from North Carolina State? He is a monster and a complete player at 6'3", 215, instead of Hollywood. We kind of just blanketed that, but go ahead.
Yeah, but like I said, speed kills, and with his technique, I think Marquise Brown can be the top 20 receiver in the league easily. I think drafting big guys oftentimes goes the wrong way because you're drafting too much on things that don't last very long. With speed, we've seen it does last. And with the technique he has, I mean, he could probably be 10 to 12 years a top 20 receiver in the league. And that's always something you want when you're drafting a guy in the second round. So yeah, speed kills. It's one thing you can't teach.
Right, and I think a lot of people are concerned about the red zone, Tony. That's why that question's been coming up for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I agree. I've said, a lot of those 50-50 guys, the reason they call them 50-50 guys is because they only win one half of the time. Now, if you've got the right kind of defender, and I'm seeing small guys that can get up, and sometimes the athleticism on the big guy is not. He may not even have as much of a vertical as that smaller guy. We've seen that a few times last year. Unless you have absolutely perfect position on some of the defenders, like that kid over in Cleveland, who I am now kind of sorry that we didn't take. Remember last year, what's his name? His last name is Ward. What's his first name?
Denzel.
Yeah, Denzel. After watching him in preseason and during the season, I said, I was one of the people who said Denzel Ward is too small. Forget about it. He won't fit this scheme. Denzel Ward is like chewing gum on a receiver's feet. I mean, it was just ridiculous what he was doing to big guys.
Yeah.
So 50-50 balls, I don't want that. I want guys to get separation as much as probably you do, Tony. So, yeah.
Yeah. The thing with Denzel, I didn't want him for two main reasons. One, we'd have to draft a lot earlier. We'd have to give up a lot more picks, right?
Yeah, and then there's that.
And then also he's a man coverage guy. If you look at Cleveland, they run a lot more man than we do. Right. So scheme fit, again, that's another reason why he did so well.
True. And I'm talking about those fade routes and things that I used to see that didn't work.
Yeah.
And I hate the fade route anyway. Ryan
Hall
has
a great position.
Yeah, Ryan Hall says, if you don't trade the number 2 pick, who do you draft?
The only guy that makes sense is Nick Bosa, because I'm not drafting a tackle, which are probably the only offensive players I would draft that high. But I'm not drafting them because we have 2 tackles already. I think Joe's going to be in here for another 3 years as a quality starter. McGlinchey is just getting started. He's going to get better. Defensive end is the only thing I'm drafting in the first round this year. That's my main focus, because if we can't get that, then we either have to pay a guy close to $30 million in free agency, or we draft later and risk not getting a good pick for the defensive end.
And that's what worries you about the way it's set up, because we got free agency first, and if you don't find that guy in free agency, I guess that's right. If you knew what you could get in the draft, let's say you did pick up Bosa, and you just paid a guy like Ziggy Ansah the kind of money you're talking about, and Ziggy's going to come in and he's going to be hurt a little bit after the national anthem, and our money's gone and no pressure. God, I'd be upset.
Yeah.
Victor Rojas says, why not Akeem Butler? I'm really still going for the size, guys. But Akeem Butler is kind of attractive.
He is a great player, just not my type of guy for what I'm trying to do. Because Kyle doesn't need big guys to do well. In fact, he probably needs smaller guys who are shiftier, who can break in and out of routes more quickly, who have speed, who can get past the secondary. So that's what I see.
All right. Jim Thurlkill. If Bosa's there, did we do this already? Okay, well, let me see. Yeah, we just did that one, right? Let me jump there. Let me see this question for you. If Bosa's there at 2, if we get Bosa, would you do it? And how would it blow up our draft? Or would you trade down with Oakland for 24 and 27? Maybe take Jalen Ferguson, who is not allowed to come to the combine this year for whatever reason, and DK later.
the thing is, if I would trade back, I would take Nick Bosa at 2, but I would first try to screw over the Raiders as much as I could, saying, give me all 3 of your first round picks. I'll give you back maybe a player and another pick. But I try and do that first because they screwed us over and then they wanted to use our stadium, which, like I said,
I
Mark
know.
Davis is the second worst owner in the league. Not even a question.
Jim,
Yeah,
you got to
but
know there's a
and
lot of bitterness between 49ers and the Raiders. I'm telling you, it's he he may have left. Al Davis may be gone, but his son is carrying on that tradition of really pissing people off across the bridge. They
yeah,
love.
but the thing was, Al Davis would have never let a generational player walk out the door. He would
Well,
have
yeah,
paid him.
that's true too. But then to say no to the 49ers, and I do believe the 49ers when they said that they had a better offer on the table than the
Mhm.
Bears did. The Raiders said no way, no, and give him to Chicago. Amari Cooper, understand they made a deal for him. They didn't want to talk. Okay, that's fine. And what they do, Tony, they turned both Chicago and the Cowboys into playoff teams immediately.
Yeah,
God, that's so irritating.
and the
Anyway,
Cowboys were 3-5 before Cooper came in.
see,
So
see what I'm saying? Sam R says, "What do you think about getting Kelvin Harmon, North Carolina State wide receiver, who is a complete player, and is Michael Thomas liked in the second round?"
um, I haven't heard of Michael Thomas. I don't know if he's talking about the one that was drafted or
Are you talking
that
about the
will be
guy
drafted.
in New Orleans?
Oh,
Maybe.
in New Orleans. I think that was a good pick if that's what he's asking. I think he's not a speedy guy, but he catches the ball almost every time. If a guy like him were available, I think he's trying to ask if he's comparable to Harmon, and if I would take Harmon. I've already expressed my thoughts on that. I think
Yeah,
Marquise Brown is better, but
yeah.
Michael Thomas, they're really. I don't think we're going to see another guy like him for the next couple of years in the second round. You
Mm.
just don't see it that often. Now, I was a big Michael Thomas guy. I wanted to draft him when he was coming out, but it didn't happen. And you can see immediately the types of guys who are going to be like that. I just don't see it in Hakeem.
Yeah.
So
This is the thing. All right. Well, Tony, good stuff. Any more thoughts you want to add to? By the way, I just wanted to let anybody know Tony's choice of Jachai Polite. He's actually ranked in the top 5. He's actually number 3. So if anybody's thinking Montez Sweat and some of these other guys are considered better coming off the edge, that's not necessarily the case. So yeah, Tony's pick is something that the 49ers may be considering due to the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, you have to take Jachai seriously instead of double teaming Buckner because if you put one guy on a guy with that kind of speed, and we're talking about a guy that's actually a few miles faster than Joshua Allen, which everybody knows is like ridiculously fast. So you got to honor that, and that's going to anything they can do to free Buckner up. That's the thing. And if you got pressure coming off that edge, if you make the mistake of doubling up on Buckner, Polite's coming in. And I think that's what they're talking about. So, all right. Anything,
yeah,
Tony, you want to add anything else?
not really. Just want to say if Solomon Thomas moves to defensive tackle, the run defense is going to be a lot better, in my opinion.
Mm,
I think with Eric Armstead and Bruce Irvin on one side, if we need to do it, we can move Armstead to the other side, make Irvin the starter at that point during rundowns, and take Jakai out of the game. Because if he's going to be a liability, with Armstead being a good run type of guy, if you will, I think we can do that. Or we can move Jakai to the middle, maybe move Solomon outside. I don't know, but
mm,
if we have all those guys on the line, we have 4 first-round picks on the line. I think we're going to do some great things because we're going
mm,
to have the personnel to do so.
mm. It's funny because if you look at the stats, a lot of folks don't understand. I don't know, Tony, if the 49ers are going to pick up that $9 million contract of Armstead. But
They
Armstead was
should.
actually the second best defender on the team last year. Most people don't know that. They've
Well,
only
the
noticed
third,
when he messes up. I'm
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
I think Sherman and Buckner were better, but still 3 I
No,
think is a
I mean, as
fair.
far as our linemen go,
Oh, our
uh,
defensive line. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, because Rich by respect and reputation alone led the 49ers in every category because
Yeah.
even Russell Wilson wouldn't throw at him. It was hilarious. You know what
I
the funny
wouldn't
thing is?
either.
Oh, I tell you, here's a nice thing about that though, Tony. Last year was every quarterback their last chance was last year.
Hmm.
Rich was not exactly rich, but after a year from that injury, I got a feeling Richard Sherman is Richard Sherman now.
I
So
agree.
you throw the ball over there now, and where's he? You may have got away with it last season. It's not going to work this year. Now he's probably healthy as he can be, and I can't wait. Oh, if they pick up Earl, my God, oh, I do like that. And Tony, it almost doesn't matter. Uh, Anybody they pick up outside. Now I don't know if Akello's going to fail this year. I kind of think Akello has gotten some of the things figured out. I saw his head turn around last year. I saw him keep pressing the man against the edge. I saw him do things that I didn't really see him do before. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
excited about seeing what he looks like. He's going to compete next year with whoever comes into camp.
I think
So
he
we'll
will,
see.
but the main thing is that's what preseason's for, and we can't have other options if we don't bring them in.
Yeah,
Because if Akello just doesn't pan out and we don't have any other guys, we're screwed.
yeah,
We
I
have
agree.
20
I want
all over
competition. All right.
hmm
All right,
at
we're
every
gonna go,
position.
and you go in the app and vote for Tony. Tell us how you feel about him. It's going to be a competition that's going to be going on all offseason long, and we'll take it from there. And don't forget to hit that like. Tony, we're gonna go ahead and set up for everybody else to call in, and you can get in here as well. Talk to you later.
All right.
Appreciate you, Tony.
All right.
Good
Thank you.
stuff. All right. And fam, with that said, let me go ahead and shut down for a few minutes. We'll be right back for the Sunday get together.